Hello YouTube, it's Ryan here with Hobbies of Man once again, and today we're doing another manga review. Today we're going to be looking at Mary Grave, and we're going to be doing a full review for the whole series. It's only 5 volumes, and I'll show them to you in a bit, but I do want to apologize for the weird backdrop and the kind of slight change of vibe here with the videos. I'm at my parents' place right now for spring break, and they were fixing our floorboards upstairs, so they had to remove everything from my room, and I don't really have anything, so I just have to like sit in a chair and have this really janky setup for my tripod here for my phone. So it's gonna be a little bit weird, but I'm still trying to make all the videos that I was planning to make this week, so we'll make it work. But yeah, just wanted to address that. And let's get into the review here. So let me show you all of the books first, and then we'll talk about it as I'm giving you the book facts, and then we'll kind of do the regular review that we usually do. So here's Mary Grave Volume 1. It comes with a nice little bookmark here. This matches the front of the book, and this matches a different image that I don't know where it's from, but it is an image that is used as promotional material for the series, and it has the logo there right there. And this is written by Hidenori Yamaji, and it's published by Panini Manga Mexico. So this size is a B6, and it's a dust jacket book with a kind of traditional style Japanese book right there. That's the dust jacket. It doesn't really have anything on the inside. And that's volume 1, like I said. This is published by Panini Manga Mexico, and the demographic here is shonen. Here's volume 2. There you go. I'm just not gonna bother fixing them up for now, but here's volume 3. This one's blue, which looks really nice. Volume 4, which is a very nice purple color. Oh, that one's tighter than the other ones. There you go. And volume 5, which is the last volume in the series, because the series got canceled as far as I know, which is a very cool gray color. So there we go. That's all of the volumes here. The genre for this manga is dark fantasy, kind of in the vein of Goblin Slayer, but not exactly in the same kind of style, because I feel like Goblin Slayer is generally a lot more bleak. And this series is actually a bit more hopeful and more kind of like positive than, you know, a usual dark fantasy story would be. So even though I would kind of consider a Goblin Slayer to be a similar title, it is not really like beyond the fact that the setting is kind of similar and the kind of style is kind of similar, but it is very much its own thing. So yeah, in terms of adaptation, given that this is a canceled series as far as I know, it doesn't seem like there is an adaptation, but it would be pretty good. And there's been some resurgence in interest in the series lately, and I know it's been very popular with the Mexican audience, so I'm very curious to see if the manga somehow gets to finish their story the way they wanted to instead of the way they had to. So the premise of Mary Grave is basically about this love that transcends time and space and even death and life, and it's very good. It's actually very, very interesting. It basically follows this scarred man here whose name is Wiseman Sawyer, sorry. So Sawyer Wiseman, his first name is Sawyer. And he's journeying throughout this kind of desolate continent / world that is being ravaged by these monstrous creatures, which are just monsters, and they're kind of epic fantasy kind of styled monsters, general medieval fantasy style monsters. They're orcs, there's goblins, there's this thing called jabberwocks, which are these very creepy, like contorted goblins. There's these, you know, all sorts of things. There's Medusas, there's centaurs, minotaurs, whatever you can think of, they're here. And there's this kind of reason for that, and the fact that and the reality is that he's searching for these ingredients, which are all basically monster parts, in order to achieve the necessary list to create this recipe called the Dead Man's Recipe. And this recipe is basically an elixir of life. It brings back someone from the dead. And he knows that this recipe works, not because it's a hopeless dream of his, but rather because he is the result of a usage of this recipe. And he wants to find all of the ingredients in order to bring back his dead wife. And along the way, we actually turned this story from the story of Wiseman Sawyer trying to save his wife to the story of his wife interconnecting with his own story, as we get to see their path, because he's following her path as she tried to save him. And it's a very, very good story. It had a lot of heart. It had a lot of meaningful stuff to it, and I really, really liked it. It was just so, so good. I didn't really expect it to like it as much as I did, but I love it. It's so awesome. Right off the bat, kind of spoiling the review here, I give it a 5 out of 5. I think it's one of the best manga that I've read this year, and it might go down as one of my favorite manga here at the end of this year. So we'll see how it goes. But the plotline is very good. Like I said, it's kind of very standard. It's every chapter basically follows the character as he's going through acquiring a specific ingredient, and or going through a situation where he has to save someone, who then leads him to an ingredient that he needs. So it's pretty formulaic, I guess you could say. But every kind of situation that occurs is significantly different. And then the story kind of segues from, you know, just following him into following him as he tries to help this dark fairy, and then into his background story here in like volumes 3 and 4, and then turns into the kind of rushed ending that is sadly the situation that this manga found itself in. And throughout this story, we pick up rather easily that Sawyer is basically following the path his wife laid out as she went through, you know, gathering all of these materials. And along the way, what happens is that we get to see her story develop at the same time as Sawyer's. And I think it's a great storytelling technique. I thought it worked really well. And it was actually really enjoyable, because sometimes I was just like, okay, I want to get to the Rosalie's part, the wife of Sawyer, because her part was actually even more interesting than what Sawyer was doing. And I actually really liked everything, the plotline, the way it progressed. I really liked that there was this kind of conflict that was developed around the dead man's recipe. There's this character that was also trying to find the recipe, and he was kind of an antagonistic force for Sawyer. Then there's this kind of like political / mythical religious situation around the recipe. I'm not really going to get into it. That created conflict for the story, and it was so good. It was really good. It was really enjoyable. It was very wonderful. I just liked the plot line of the story so much. It kind of sucks that the ending had to be rushed, but I think that the ending was handled immensely well. I think the mangaka had a very good way of finishing the story, because, you know, he kind of tells you, hey, this is going to be rushed, but it's okay. It just kind of happens. He managed to get to a point where, like, the current arc ended, and then from there, he kind of gave himself a few chapters to get to the next point, and then develop, like, a very short but meaningful kind of like, okay, and then he found the rest of the stuff, and then he did what he had to do, and he managed to complete his journey, but also left it, you know, significantly open-ended, that if he ever got the chance to come back to the story, he could easily just pick up, you know, at the end of the arc, so to speak, and then just start again and continue through the story. And I thought that was really well handled. I liked it quite a bit. So I've been talking about this part for too long. Let's move on here. So characters wise, there's 2 to 3 characters that are really important. There's 2 other characters that are semi-important. And then there's a bunch of secondary characters that are only important during flashbacks. So the main character is Sawyer. And like I said, he's a kind of guy that's very devoted to his wife. It's been 100 years since they got married. And he's still kind of chasing after her and stuff like this. And he's this funny guy. He's really funky. He's really weird, but he's very earnest, and I like him a lot. I think he's really fun, and he has a very solid heart of gold, and I really like him a lot as a character. I really don't want to go deeper into his character that much, because I think the development of his character is actually really good, because you understand why he is the way he is, and mostly it's just because that's how he is, but also because it's like a coping mechanism for the crushing, debilitating sadness that he has. It's really good. And then we have Rosalie, who's his wife, and here for you know, context, that's what Rosalie looks like, and that's what Sawyer is. And Rosalie is a really interesting character as well. She's such a beautiful person. Like, everything about her is just wonderful and glorious and warm and heartfelt, and I just love her so much. She is done very well. She definitely has that kind of like loving housewife kind of vibe to her, but she's very definitely not just a housewife. She's a very powerful character, and we get to learn a lot about her, and I really don't want to talk about more than that because she's a really wonderful character with a kind of dark past, if you will. And then we have Jean, who is this dark fairy, and she's actually very cute, and she has this kind of interesting aspect to her because she is basically a character with the same curse as Sawyer. She is someone that has been gifted eternal life or near eternal life, and so she basically learns that life is pain because everything and everyone around her have basically died, and now she's super sad and lonely. And you know, we get to see Sawyer come here and be like, hey, I understand you, I have the same plight, and why don't you join me on my journey, and we can live and have fun together and be friends forever. And I really liked it. I thought it was really good, and I actually cried when that kind of whole situation with Jean was resolved. I think the idea of lifelong friendships and found family are some of the most important things in fantasy and in real life, and they just make me really like emotional, and I liked it a lot. I thought it was really great. Jean is a fun character. Then we also have Dante, who is this character that isn't introduced to us until about volume 3, but I think is a very important character. But I won't tell you too much about him, except that he was a childhood friend of Rosalie and Sawyer, and he's actually kind of really interesting and important after his introduction, so I'll leave it at that for him. And then we have a few other side characters. We have the bad guy whose name is Vel. He has this like living shark sword, which kind of reminds me of Samehada from Naruto, but it's very different, and I liked it a lot. I think it was really cool. But there's not much more to him than that. There's a bunch of other characters that show up in flashbacks, but they're not really all that relevant to the story specifically. But there's this very good moment near the end of the story that kind of brings these characters back to like, in a sense, and it was beautiful. I liked it so much. This manga just has a lot of heart. In terms of world building, I think it's great. It's a very kind of standard like medieval epic fantasy type. So you know, you have all your evil races of monsters, and you have your humans who live in these kind of like not really Renaissance, but not really properly medieval worlds and cities, and with odd rules and stuff like that. And then you have these kind of like just magical people, and it seems like everyone can use magic more or less, but their difference the difference comes from their ability to draw out magic power from items, because in this world people don't really become magical in the sense that they have an innate power, but rather they're magical in the sense that they can extract power from things, usually from magical creature body parts that they harvest, and then use that to channel spells. So if you have the tail of a salamander, you can channel fire powers, right? And if you have the, dark fairy dust, you can channel dark power-up attacks and stuff like that. It's very good. It's very interesting. And it makes for a very dynamic kind of style of magic, because it really depends on what you have with you more than it does your innate ability or like your innate like magical power. So it's really good. There's a lot of key elements that show up a few times here, and I think it's just because they're useful. They have mandrakes, which are they give you the power of illusion, and then there's salamander tails, which allow you to have fire powers, like I said. And then there's these like eyes of witches, which are these like just weird eyeballs from monsters that allow you to dispel magic. So those are the three kind of ones that show up a lot, but there's a lot of other different things that show up quite a bit, and it's very, very good. I really like the magic of the story quite a bit. So yeah, there's some medieval politics and some medieval religion type stuff as well. And it almost gets into this kind of like Freemasons, like conspiracy theory thing, which is really fun. And yeah, in terms of artwork and fan service, I really wouldn't say there's much fan service, but there's definitely very good artwork. Here's some cute fairies and a really funky ass expression from the character here. And here's some very good high quality art. It's very interesting. Sometimes the art here reminds me of like of Korean manhwa more than it does manga, but this is a Japanese manga artist as far as like I know. And I think that they're just really good, really interesting. Their characters are very dynamic and very powerful, and their designs are really distinct and beautiful, and I like it a lot. I think Mary Grave is really good in terms of art, and Hidenori Yamaji did a great job with it. So yeah, there's some parts in like the flashback scenes that kind of look odd, like compared to the early stuff, but I think that it's done on purpose in order to show that the characters are younger. And so I really like it a lot, because even if maybe it wasn't on purpose, but the fact that it's so distinctly only in that time period is really good, because it allows you to have this kind of like visual representation of like, hey, this is not right now, or this is being imagined or remembered. And I think it's really, really good. So I liked it a lot. I thought it was very good overall. But yeah, really good stuff here with the artwork. Other than that, like I said, there's really not that much fan service there. But there are a few characters that do come off kind of fan servicey. Like, you know, she looks really hot. And, you know, Jean, the fairy, looks really attractive as well. Let's see if I can find her. Oh, look at this piece of artwork, man. Holy crap, that's so cool. That's like an evil ant or like a mandragora or something like that. Let's see if Jean shows up in this first volume. I think she does, but I can't remember. Let's see. Yeah, she's like basically like evil Tinkerbell, or like dark Tinkerbell, and I really like her. I think she's really fun. But yeah, like I said, not much fan service, but yeah. In terms of rating, this is a 5 out of 5 straight up. There's no contest. This is a beautiful, amazing, awesome story. There's so much here that I really loved. I thought the fan family aspect, the love that transcends life and death was awesome. I love the way the character is, you know, ridiculous, but also very strong and powerful at the same time. You know, there's so much about this story that I loved. It's definitely going to be one of my favorites for the year. I haven't really thought of any manga that I've been reading this year that really affected me as strongly as this. Most of the manga that I clearly, distinctly remember are still from December, so this is probably the first manga that I've read this year that has really, like, you know, punched me emotionally and really kind of affected me. So this one's gonna definitely be a contender for best manga of the year that on the videos that I do at the end of the year. So really looking forward to that video, because I'm really curious to see what's gonna happen there. But Mary Grave is awesome. I definitely recommend it. I think that if you guys like dark fantasy, but also like a very hopeful and upbeat kind of a story with a lot of emotional gut punches and a lot of heart-wrenching moments, you really like Mary Grave. It's really good. Sadly, it's not available in English, which is weird, because if I remember correctly, it's published by Shogakukan on Weekly Shonen Sunday, which is the other magazine that Viz publishes from, besides Weekly Shonen Jump and Shoujo Beat. So I'm curious to see why it hasn't been published yet, because they could easily slap this onto a release, a Viz release, and just have it out really quickly, really efficiently, and a lot of people would like it, I think. So I don't know why they haven't released it. Maybe it's just because, as far as I understand it, the English manga community has not really given too much of a crap about the series, which is a real shame, because it's so good. But I think that just happens with Axed or early, like series that finished earlier than anticipated, because this series really had the ability to be, 400 chapters long. So it got canceled or finished up. I'm not really sure what happened. I think it got canceled. And so it had this rush ending, but I don't know. It's really good. Like I said earlier, if you kind of like Goblin Slayer, you'll probably like this. Other than that, I had thought of saying it's kind of like Berserk, but then I realized, no, this is not like Berserk at all. This is not a sad, horribly depressing story that is just really good. This is just it's a much more heartwarming and uplifting story. But it does kind of have that like dark fantasy element and kind of gore and like messed up vibe of like Goblin Slayer, and I think that's like as close as I can get to something similar, so we'll leave it at that. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, please leave a like, subscribe, and comment down below. Let me know what you thought, and thank you guys very much for watching. And yeah, see you guys later.